Welcome, 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 everyone. We are so glad to have you here today. We're very excited to learn more about tax avoidance. So that's really thrilling, and we'll be introducing Joe in a few minutes. I like to, as you know, we work with the passive investor to help them build, this is the reason we like Joe and people like this to come on to explain to you how you could build your wealth and not end up paying any taxes. Well, you have to pay some at the beginning, but you won't have to pay some at the end. I'd like to find a quote that's always pertaining to what's going on. You never know how strong you are until until being strong is the only choice you have. So when you're investing, that's when you need to be your strongest. Many things can happen. So that's our quote for today. And I am going to do a little quick introduction of Joe. Joe's a very interesting gentleman. He spent 4 decades working with startup venture and growth company entrepreneurs and investors in a broad range of industries in the US, Europe, and Asia. He is a specialist in the challenges faced by growing organizations. He now applies his market development and business operating experience to evaluating investment opportunities. He and I go hand in hand on that. As an enthusiastic advocate of self-direct IRAs and 401ks, he brings an everyday investor's perspective to using these tools to build a portfolio and accumulate wealth. He's a graduate of St. Louis University, lives in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and has been a CAMA plan client since 2015. So welcome, 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 Joe. We are so thrilled to have you here. Please take it away.
Thank you so much, Peggy. Really appreciate you having me and having Camoplan on. And thanks everybody else for taking time. Because if everybody's on the West Coast, it's your afternoon, and I'm 3 hours ahead of you. But thanks, and thanks for the introduction. The short version of that is, it's what happens if you don't have a career plan. So, if you need to have me come and warn your children, I can do that. Let me go ahead and share screen, and we'll talk about what we're going to talk about today. And then let me know what you see on this end, on your end, rather.
We see your share.
You see my notes or my screen? Just full screen?
Yeah, we see your full screen.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, let's get started then. Just a quick,
Yes.
The lawyers have to be involved in everything.
Fine. Are you trying to get on?
Should I wait for a sec?
Okay, so just let me give you this number and use it because I'm hosting right now. And we have started, and it's 896-1885-9119. Yes, join meeting, yeah. Yep. Okay, bye.
Okay, good. All right, we've got somebody else coming in. Yeah, just a quick disclaimer. We're a neutral third party. We're kind of the recorder of the ledger for your IRA or your 401k. We document everything that happens in it. We don't endorse any investments. We don't promote any investments. We can't recommend any investments. And so, everything we do is provided for educational purposes only. And we always tell everyone to surround yourself with competent advisors, a tax prep specialist, an accountant, a lawyer if need arises, and you have the resources to do so. So, without, any further ado, let's get into it. Just a bit about us first. We've been around for 20 years this year. We had our first client in August of 2004. We're just north of Philly in Ambler. It's a nice little leafy suburb, quaint little town. And we took over the town borough hall, which has its jail cells down here in the basement, about 10 yards from me. So, any clients don't pay their bills, that's where they go. So we have the client base is all across the country. We have 8,000 plus clients, and again, we've been doing this for 20 years, and we like to think we've established a reputation for dealing personally and one-on-one. People call me and talk to me, or they talk to Donna upstairs, or they talk to Sarah. So my job is primarily working with fund managers, syndicators, people who raise money, and trying to make the whole process easy. So if I can explain it to the masters of the universe type, I think I can explain it to the average person. So because sometimes they're harder to get through. So again, our main mission is education. Company was founded by a brother and sister, third generation real estate people out of Florida. They did this because they were looking for a place to do this kind of investing inside of an IRA. Carl had discovered after the passing of his father that this type of thing was possible, that there were people doing it. It was confined mostly to the wealthy back in the 1980s and 1990s. And he and his sister deconstructed the whole process. And we're one of the first companies to offer it on a broad scale basis instead of a bespoke and boutique kind of service. So, as I said, we're neutral third parties. We don't sell anything except a domicile for your IRA or your 401k. And we integrate ourselves into the total financial picture of our clients in that we work with their advisors and tax prep specialists and everybody who surrounds them. I'll spend time on the phone with an advisor who's curious about how things work on our side of the world, who's used to handling, say, listed securities, and wants to know more about what we do and how we do it. So tonight we're going to talk about, now, let me see, I think I have to click this one twice. And then the content is disappearing. I don't know why. It's showing up on my, there we go. I'll have to click on the slide. We're going to talk about what these vehicles are, the different types, without getting too far into the tall grass, because you can always follow up with me or I can follow up with you. The IRA and non-IRA performance differences, which is where the tax savings come in, and it's where the advantages are to doing this. How it works, it looks a lot more complicated from the outside than it is actually on the inside. And as I said, we provide a personalized service to individuals. We help them get their accounts open, get their funds over here, and get their funds invested. And we'll talk a little bit about how the different investments operate. And there's a lot of confusion for some people about what a self-directed IRA is. The major brokerage houses pitch their IRAs as self-directed, but they're typically set up to handle listed securities, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, that sort of thing. And so you get a great menu. I mean, you can go invest on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange or the FTSE or anywhere in the world, but they are listed exchange services. And so it's stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. What we give you an opportunity to do in companies like ours is to invest in assets beyond Wall Street and beyond the major global bourses. These are alternative assets, and we're going to talk a bit about the types of assets that you can invest in. There's a very short list, by the way, of assets you can't invest in, but we'll get to that. So the key benefit is that you invest in what you know. If you're real estate oriented, we get a lot of people coming at this from the finance field, from banking, from real estate. They were agents for a long time, or they come at it from construction and they've done a few fix and flips for investors, and they're curious about becoming a fix and flipper. So we get people that put their expertise and their knowledge to work. We have some people who come from industries that they understand and have been in for decades. They retire and they know what's going on in those industries, and they can place their money on ventures, on intellectual property, on new technologies within the industries that they understand the best, because they understand how those industries work, how companies in those industries, what they're supposed to look like, and how they make their money. So idea is invest in what you know. It gives you a lot more control. You may be familiar with the types of IRAs. Some of you have them. They fall into two broad categories. There are the tax deferred and the tax-free. Most of us have had some experience with traditional IRAs. There is a spousal version, which is what happens when one spouse passes. Uh, the SEP and the Simple are designed for small companies. So you could actually put an IRA on top of a side gig you've got or a small venture you have and take advantage of the contribution limits, which are larger than they are for traditional IRAs to build wealth there. It also includes defined benefit plans, and defined benefit plans, what we used to call pensions. That's you're going to get paid X amount a month for the rest of your life, and then your surviving spouse, is going to get that amount of money until he or she passes. Then defined contribution plans are better known as a 401k. You're going to contribute to those each year. You're going to get a little tax break for doing so, and you build your wealth there. The other types are tax-free, and this is, you may have heard of the Roth IRA. Some of you may have them. This is where you don't get a tax break for putting in money the way you would in a traditional IRA. Your accountant tells you, go ahead and put in 5,000, 6,000, 8,000, I think is the limit for this coming year, with the $1,000 catch-up for people 50 and over. And you get a bit of a deduction for doing that. With the tax-free, you don't get that deduction. You just put that money in there, and there are some limits, income limits, which we can send you the details on that later. But you put your money in there, and you don't get a break, but you get to keep everything you make. It's a huge difference, because the tax deferred, think of that as the government subsidizing the seed that you're going to plant to raise a crop. And they've given you a break to do it. They've subsidized the seed, but in return, you're going to do the work, you're going to make the investments, you're going to sweat. And then in the end, they're going to take a bite out of it when you take that money out of those accounts when you retire. The thinking is that when you got to that age and you retired, your income would drop. You were no longer earning a salary or a wage, and that you would fall into a lower tax bracket. And so this was a way to encourage people to save for retirement. The idea being that, yes, you will pay taxes on that, but it won't be generally as high as it would when you were working. The tax-free is that nobody subsidizes your seeds, but you get to keep everything. Probably the premier example of this is Peter Thiel, a billionaire who put his PayPal stock into his Roth IRA. This was not the intent at the time, but it was issued for a penny a share or whatever it was that he was given the shares to, and he bought them with his Roth IRA, and there's billions of dollars. I think in 2018, it crossed over $1 billion inside of his Roth IRA. He will never pay a dime in taxes on that. There are also some differences in the way that those accounts play out when you retire and as you get older. In the tax deferred, you'll be required to take distributions because, again, the government has invested the seeds with you and wants its take. And so at age 73 now, it'll be age 75 in 2023, you'll be forced to remove a certain percentage based upon the longevity tables that the IRS publishes each year. With the tax-free, you don't have to take anything out. You can leave it for your heirs, or you could take it all out in one go and go buy a yacht or an island somewhere, and you won't get taxed on it. So it's a great vehicle. The Carl Fisher, the co-founder, is a big advocate of the Roth. He likes that as a vehicle, and it's kind of, you want to get into it now. At some point it may disappear. They may take it away. They'll grandfather everyone in it, but you want to have something like this. And I'll show you the difference in a few minutes of what a real estate investment looks like inside of a Roth. And okay, so let's say allowable investments. As I said, the list of investments that you can't make is very, very short, but there's real estate, and related to that are notes and mortgages and things like that, and trust deeds and tax liens and all of that. Plus, you can invest in business ventures. This is LLCs and LPs, which are often real estate oriented as well. We probably have 75% of our business, our assets under management here, are real estate or real estate related. So they're either direct ownership of rental and vacation properties, or they're people who lend to fix and flippers, or who hold mortgage notes on properties. So, or participate in real estate syndications and various funds, Regulation A and D, to do things like buy raw land, prepare it for single family home development, triple net lease commercial deals where they come in and buy the land out from under a company, and the company becomes a tenant and they make money that way. Then there's precious metals. That's a big part of our business too, probably about 10 to 15%. We have our share of gold bugs. Uh, More specifically, with regard to real estate, it covers the gamut. A lot of multi-unit or multifamily homes, apartment complexes are a huge part of our portfolio. Um, oh, let me just back out here. Apartments are a huge part of our portfolio, as is commercial property. And again, there's really no limit here. You can buy land in a foreign country. I have people who have invested in Costa Rica, and you can bank raw land if you want. And again, commercial property is going through a very unusual period, and there are going to be enormous opportunities in commercial property, particularly office buildings and in retail space.
Hmm.
Again, under allowable assets, mortgages, a huge part, convertible notes, discounted notes, secured and unsecured notes. I do lending primarily in my account. And I'll lend to fix and flippers. I've done some unsecured where I'm lending to a business venture. It's somebody who's a vendor to me. So it's somebody I have a prior relationship with who I trust and have done these things over and over again for years to help his business expand. Um, Then again, business ventures of all kinds, intellectual property, oil and gas rights, um, new technologies. We see these all the time. And again, if you understand an industry, you understand a certain form of technology, you can put your money to work in areas where you know a bit about it. And the structures of these things are virtually every legal structure you can imagine, except for S corps, which are prohibited. There are some things you can't. I said the list was very short. I meant it. Works of art, rugs or antiques, these kinds of things, things where the appraisal value is difficult or extremely subjective. Buying and selling an apartment building, you can at least benchmark it against other buildings of similar quality or similar age in a similar location. But a work of fine arts is very difficult. Now, there is a workaround there. There's a company called Masterworks that allows you to invest in fractional ownership of artwork. And there you're investing in an LLC that
Mhm.
owns the art and buys and sells and trades. And so that is certainly allowable. So stamps or coins and metals, all the collectible stuff, the numismatic stuff. Can't put booze in there. Can't put cigars in there either. You can, however, do minted gold and silver eagles and things like that. And those, because they're in an IRA, would have to be held in a depository, and we have relationships with depositories here on the East Coast to make that happen. So it's a really short list. There are some people you're not allowed to do business with. Now, everybody in your direct lineal family are generally people you can't invest in or loan money to from an IRA. Um, I'll give you an example. And again, my my guess is that when they conjured up the rules for this stuff, the people sitting in the room, the lobbyists and the politicians, probably had situations they wanted to carve out. So that's probably why this ended up as weird as it is, but it is. Um, I'll give you an example. As an account holder, I've loaned money to my brother's business and to my nephew's business. Uh, my brother, as a contractor, has been for nearly 50 years in Texas. And occasionally he needs a piece of capital equipment, and I've loaned it to him. As long as I loan it to him at market rate, that's good to go. My nephews both have their own business, specialty steel welding and preparing land for new construction. They live in an area of Houston that's like Florida. It's like a swamp. And so whenever you build something, you have to accommodate the water and the runoff. And so they specialize in that. And I've loaned them money for that. So the key part of any of these things is that you can't self deal. I get a lot of people that say, "Hey, I want to buy my house. I want my IRA to buy my house," or "I'm thinking about buying a franchise. Can I invest in it?" You can't do any self dealing. You can't, and the reason is they didn't want money passed through a tax favorable entity into your pockets. And the other reason is that they didn't want you to be investing in wild schemes that you cook up and lose your money in. because they're business ventures that you own. Pardon me. So no self-dealing. Um, Now that we're past the don'ts, well, why would you go through the trouble, or why would you, abide by those rules? Well, it's all about the money. If Let's talk about the different types of money you make in life. One is I'm a contractor. I'm a 1099 guy. I have been my whole life. Um, Most people have salaries or wages, and they get paid, and they pay taxes out of all of that, and they pay Social Security, Medicare, and they pay, they pay things for their employer plans and all these things, contributions and whatnot. And by the time that's backed out, you're looking at about 60% of your gross pay. So if you're making 100K, you're down to 60,000. If your money is coming to you in the form of rent or royalties, well, you get to keep more than that. You pay, 0 to 45% tax, but generally it's about 75,000. So that's dividends and capital gains, which I think the going rate is 20. Now, if you're into IRAs and 401ks, you get to keep all of it. Now, with the traditional, as I mentioned, you'll be taxed on that. But in the Roth, you're not taxed on it. So you want to move as much of your money into, and this is what's so cool about passive investing. This is what's so cool about Nest Egg Builder, is that they're showing you how to do passive income, how to generate passive income. And we'll show you how to make that passive income, produce more wealth for you. Another way to look at it is like this. And I forget what the assumptions were here, but basically we started with $50,000 and we assumed some sort of return, 7% or 8% or something. And you can see the difference. The taxable income just chews away at you. And so after 40 years, you've got 3 times as much if you were to stick that thing into a Roth at the beginning as you would have if you left it outside of the Roth and paid taxes every year on the gains. So these are really great vehicles for doing this. Let's get a little closer. Let's take a look at investments inside and outside of an IRA. And this is strictly for demonstration purposes. We made some baseline assumptions. Those of you familiar with real estate ownership for investment purposes will understand the terminology, but we really kept it dirt simple. All right, so you got two people and they're 60 years old, or they might not be 60. They're 60 years old. They buy an office building. Each of them pays $1 million for it. And the net rental income is $100,000. The person who owns it outside of the IRA gets a depreciation allowance, pretty healthy one, and we've got the assumptions. And by the way, Peggy, I'll send the slides out along with some other goodies that we can send to everybody who attended, and for your general use as you see fit. So we have a lot of examples like this. So you're going to get the depreciation allowance, which is deducted from your net rental income, but you're going to pay income tax on the remainder. So you can see that the net income to the owner is $100,000. You're here at $79,000. All right. Now, if you're dependent upon that for income, like part of the reason you invested in it is that you want income, this is more suitable for you. But there's no reason why you can't do both. Can't invest some of your qualified money alongside of your non-qualified money. And by the way, I should have mentioned this when we were talking about allowable investments. You can partner with people with other IRAs and go in on investments, together. I do that with my wife. I do that with some of my colleagues upstairs. So you could take IRA money and non-IRA money and take advantage of the depreciation, pay the income tax, but also have part of your money sheltered so that you get to keep the income. Now the kicker comes when you sell. All right, let's say it's appreciated to a value of $3 million. There's a depreciation recapture, which we have. Now let's just say it's, they've gone the full course here. The depreciation recapture after the period of time, 800,000 was the total allowance. So 25% of that is recaptured. So that comes out of your profit, the sale price. Then there's capital gains tax that you have to pay. And so you can see that after this is sold, you're ahead by about $600,000. $600,000 is nothing to sneeze at. And when you look at it in the aggregate, over a period of 10 years of ownership, say, or 30 years of ownership, or 27.5, and the proceeds from the sale of the property, you're way ahead here. And again, this will never be taxed. And if it's in a Roth, you can take it out when you want. You can take it out all in one lump sum. You can leave it in there for your heirs if you want. And if we get into discussion about that, we can talk about how to distribute to your heirs before it ends up. Used to be called a 100-year Roth because you could give it to your heirs and they could keep it on, and then they could give it to their heirs. But they said you have to empty it out in 10 years. So we have some strategies to cope with that. All right. So we went through what they are, what you can do, what you can't do, why you would want to do it, the money. All right. So how do you do it? Well, we kind of made it easy. This thing here is we 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 have somebody that does beautiful graphic design, and I love this one. But we could really do just 3 steps. In 20 minutes, you'll accomplish the first two. You'll open your account. It's all done online. It's like opening a bank account. You'll tell us a bit about yourself and provide validation as to who you are. And then during that process, if you have qualified funds sitting in a similar account, like another IRA or another Roth IRA, you will initiate the transfer of those funds over to your new account. And you can transfer partial or all of it or whatever you want to do. So within 20 minutes, you've accomplished the first 2 steps. Then it usually takes about 2 weeks for funds to get over here. A lot of folks wonder why it doesn't work like Venmo. It's because it's moving from qualified accounts to qualified accounts, and the IRS pays a lot of attention to it because, again, it wants its share. So there has to be some care taken that money doesn't appear to be a distribution to you. If you're moving $100,000 over from Schwab to us, we don't want that $100,000 creating a taxable event for you. So that's why it generally takes about 2 weeks, sometimes a little longer with some of the smaller brokerage houses. If you're moving teacher savings plan, stuff in pensions, that sometimes can take longer. I just had somebody who wanted to do an investment in June and had to wait till September because the next distribution out of the pension was quarterly, and she didn't get her paperwork done until early July, and she just had to wait that extra quarter to get the money to come over. Then once your funds are here, you're notified, and during that period is when you will complete the purchase of an asset. We advise you to look for a potential asset or a potential investment, before you move your money over. We're happy to have your money here. There's no cost for keeping money here, but we don't pay interest on it. So, you'll want to scout out, tee up, or at least get within your headlights or your range, the investment that you want to do and start doing your due diligence. And then when you've decided you want to go do it, you can open the account and initiate the movement of your money over. And during that time, go ahead and sign the paperwork and documents associated with that investment. We have real estate specialists here who will participate in the closing and work with the title company in case you're buying real estate outright in your IRA. And we'll help you get the asset purchase paperwork done. Usually, when you submit asset purchase paperwork, it takes about 48 hours for the funds to get from your account to the investment. So it's really simple. We have a lot of people who've been doing this for a really long time, and they'll pull you through it. And once you've done it a couple times, you get the hang of it. It's it'll be like anything else you've done. We also have a lot of resources, and I did not put this up here so you could read it because it's impossible. But we have a lot of resources to help you self-direct. And it's the whole idea here is to provide education so you understand what you're doing, what's needed, what to look for, what to look out for. And again, there are people behind all of these instructions to help you out specifically. We also have some other resources. And again, Peggy, I'll send this one over to you. And it's an interesting thing because a lot of people say, well, I don't have a lot of money to invest. What do I do? Should I get started on this? Yeah, you can. And with a modest amount of money, you can pair up with your own non-qualified money. You can pair up with other people's IRAs or other people's non-qualified money. We have a lot of folks who want to get into, say, fix and flip, or they want to start building a rental portfolio and they don't have a lot of money. I said, do you have friends and family who trust you? Who are you close to? Yeah. They've probably got IRAs and 401ks. If they've had jobs, if they've had careers, they generally don't know about this. And so if they're interested in helping you out and you can make them some money, you can combine their resources and yours, or get them to lend to you. Again, I co-invest with my spouse. I co-invest with my coworkers. It opens up a whole other world to you. You can invest in larger projects than you otherwise were capable of doing. Pardon me. And some people will start doing that, and they'll realize that this is a business that they want to get in, and they'll begin to raise money for the purpose of making investments, and they'll formalize that process. And eventually they'll become their own funds and they'll form their own syndications. We have a lot of people who've taken this path. One accountant who was putting together deals for investors in multifamily apartment complex rehabs, this is 300 units and above. He was doing the math for them. And then he said, I could do this if I raised a little money. And now he's into that game. And he does huge apartment complexes all over the Southeast and Texas. So we have a lot of people that start out doing this as an investment, as passive, and realize that this is a way of life, and they get into it big time. So if you've,
Yep.
yeah, if you got the, if you're young enough and you want to do it, or if you got the bandwidth, go for it. We have a lot of other resources. There is, and these things actually work. I mean, I tried them. They might not work, but don't worry, because I'm going to send Peggy the slides. But we have a little 5-minute video that probably does a much better job than I do in 20 minutes, in just 5 minutes. And it says, this is what self-direction is, and what you can do with it. And you can just watch it by holding your phone over it and clicking on it. There is also a podcast. Our producer, Michael Duncan, is very good at this. And he talks to people about their journeys and how they got into investing, or how they built an investment business, how they built a rental portfolio. And very exciting. Some of the stories are really fun to listen to. So if you click on that, it'll take you to the homepage. You can sign up to receive notices, and he drops those every Monday at first thing in the morning. So I'm trying to keep an eye on my clock here. All right.
Yes.
All right. So I think we are. And there we are.
All right.
We're at the end. So I blasted through that. I think you wanted 20 minutes. What did I do?
Yeah. And I like that you've got a few things that most other companies don't have, which is really nice. I believe, is there anybody here who doesn't have a self-directed IRA? See, almost everybody here does have a self-directed IRA. Many people are in Ross because they get it.
Yeah.
I still have questions.
Fire away. I'll
You
see if I can
can't,
answer them.
you brought up a lot of different things, so my notes are very scribbled here, but the last thing you brought up was you kept talking about cash and rolling your money into a new CAMA plan from an old other company plan. My question is there any problem rolling the assets? Like, I'm 100% in assets. I don't have much cash in any of mine. So when I change companies, I always roll the asset. I'm not cash. You can't cash out real estate because you're going to roll.
Right. Right. Yeah. We do assets in kind transfers
Okay.
all the time, and especially real estate. We understand it. Well, I don't. People upstairs do.
Yeah.
And yeah. Yeah. So we're, if your valuations are there, you're used to doing fair market valuations on your stuff. It's pretty straightforward.
And then you also talked about, you have real estate specialists. Do I
Yeah.
get to talk to the real estate specialist for free
Absolutely.
when I'm looking at a real estate deal?
Absolutely. Now, they're prohibited from advising you whether it's a good deal or
Oh,
not.
of
But
course.
in terms of teeing up the process of closing and doing that, yes, they're accustomed to working with you, the title company, the seller or buyer, and making that happen. So yeah, we've
I'm
got a
just asking because I've worked with companies that won't allow you to talk to anybody in real estate, and you're talking to the receptionist. And
yeah.
that doesn't work for me anyway.
No, we have our chief senior trust specialist, Donna, has been with the company since nearly day one. So she's been doing this for 20 years.
That's
And
great.
her Sarah, the other person who handles asset purchases, has been with the company. Oh gosh, I've been 12 years. maybe even closer
Right.
to 15. So
Well, we have heard also, if anybody's got a question, just raise your hand so I can see it, because you know me, I'll bogart for ages. We understand a lot of companies now are offering matching on a 401 Roth. They're, I don't know if they're still offering the traditional, but they're starting to offer the Roth because they realize that it's a bad deal for the employee to be in a traditional 401k.
mhm.
And the other thing is, and this came from another company, they said when you're contributing from your 401k, you could take that money in your 401k and buy other businesses. But you were saying something to the contrary.
You can buy businesses as long as you're not a majority owner or you are
Well, you would
controlling
be
that
because
business.
it's your company buying your 401k company is the company that's buying more companies or reinvesting in their own
Mm,
company. We were told that that was, you could do that from your 401k. Remember, you're the entrepreneur, you're the owner of the 401k,
right,
and you're contributing your 56 or $76,000 a year into the 401. Now you
right.
want to either expand your business. We were told that you could reinvest some of that money back into the company itself.
It's a real gray area.
Okay,
The 401ks will have a sponsor, a trustee, and an administrator. In the case of my 401k, I'm all three. Uh, but I couldn't take money and put it into my business.
but
I'd
you're
have
a
to see those.
lender.
Hmm?
You're a lender, so every time you lend money, you're taking money into your business of lending.
Well, my 401k is the lender, and it's operating. I'm operating it as a business, yes, but I'm not lending to a business that I own, which I think is the distinction there. But if there's specific circumstances, we like playing with these. If there's a set of circumstances you want us to take a look at, I'll get on the phone with Carl. We love
Okay,
pulling these things apart and seeing if there's a way to get it done. I mean,
right,
I
that's what's
sort of,
important.
yeah, I'm not going to say, oh, well, the rules this and the rules that. And yeah, there are rules and we never break them or bend them, but there are strategies,
Sure.
that can help get things done and get things done legally so that later on you don't come to bite you in the bottom. But yeah, if you've got some situation you'd like us to look at, we'll have fun with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Marcy, yeah, I think you're muted or
Yeah,
we can,
I know.
there you are.
You can borrow from your 401k without any early withdrawal fees or penalties. There's a way to do that. Um, and then with that money, let's say you want to buy a business or start a franchise, you can do that with that borrowed money. But I haven't I'm not aware of taking that money and investing it into an already existing business. I can find that out, but I'm not familiar with that. What I am familiar with is to use that money to expand your marketing or hire people, whatever you need for the new business.
Marcy,
New
what you just described it is different than loaning directly. What you're doing is borrowing from it, and there are provisions as long as you pay it back, it has to be at a market rate of interest.
Mhm.
That things are a little looser with that money than it would be a direct loan from your 401k to Marcy Conglomerate Incorporated. So yeah, you
Right.
can, and we get people who will take not necessarily in their own businesses, but they'll borrow money for a short-term opportunity that pays a fairly high interest rate. Somebody needs bridge financing for 90 days or 180 days, and they'll come and take that. And as long as they put that back in at a market rate of interest, they've taken advantage of that, and they've kept, the profit can stay outside. You're just repaying the loan, and you're paying part of the interest, and the rest of the profit, you can keep it. You can do whatever you want with it.
Mm.
So that some people, take advantage of that provision.
Do you have a thought or a comment, Eugene? You use yours a lot.
Yeah, I'm not using it very much anymore. I mean, I used to lend a lot from it, so I was a quote unquote hard money lender, as they say. Um, and then I used to invest in fix and flips with others through it. There was always this thing about trying to make sure, excuse me, uh, that it wasn't self-dealing. Um, yeah, so I discovered it a long time ago. I love the Roth. I love the self-directed IRA because all that
Good.
money's in
Good to
there
hear.
tax-free. My only challenge with the self-directed IRA was I was with equity trust.
Hmm.
And sometimes with deals, the deals have to be done fast. Property under contract, got to move fast. Equity trust had no sense of urgency.
So I've heard.
Yeah, so I actually moved out of there and started a checkbook because they literally they just I had deals killed because
Right.
they had no sense of urgency. So I still have a little bit of money with them, but we basically started a checkbook IRA because they were killing me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah, we see that in the tax lien business and some of the others where you need to auctions, where you need to move quickly, the checkbook IRA. And yeah, we know that people, a lot of these companies started right around the same time. Equity's a huge organization. We know them. Um, we like to think there's about 40 companies in the space. And we like to think they all try to do a good job, but it is a lot of moving parts in the business. We're kind of in the middle of the pack in terms of assets under management, and we like to think we're big enough to get anything done, but small enough to answer the phone. So, so yeah, we hear those stories a lot, and we try to be as nimble as possible, especially with real estate closings, because it's really that timetable is brutal. So
it is.
yeah, it's not like missing a month in a fund where you know you need to have your money in by the 25th of the month so you can start. You know, all you're missing there is a month if your paperwork's not together. Real estate's different.
Yeah, it also becomes embarrassing if I'm a lender and I'm supposed to have money at the closing table. And this has
Mm,
happened once with Equity Trust. Equity Trust missed the closing.
oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Oh my
and
God.
so reputation wise, I look
Yeah,
really I look really bad.
that's
Yeah.
right.
And so I've literally stopped using them for anything that required a sense of urgency. I don't use them for at all. And I don't even recommend them to people.
Mm.
Yeah, they're just big.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big organization. And I think they've got 30 or 50,000 clients, and yeah, it's a large group. So
Yeah. Chris, do you have a comment? I mean, you're in multifamily, so are you using
Yeah,
your,
I do like 95% of all my stuff through my self-directed IRA.
that's good to hear. All
yeah,
So,
right, that's great.
and it is a big problem when I have a lot of investors that do it too, but some people just set up in their basement. They don't call back for days. It's brutal. So it drives me crazy.
because of the time frame?
Well, yeah, I mean, or you'll get a recording or, it just anyone can set up their own company. So the most important thing that I value is REMA at I use a different company, a competing company. It's called the Interest Group, but they pick up the phone. They'll answer questions and they're fast.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's what you look for. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, again, there's a lot of moving parts, and there's still a lot of it is physical. In the sense that somebody looks at every one of these transactions, you're moving money in and out of qualified plans. It's got to be examined. It's slower than, as I said before, it's not a Venmo transaction. So that said, the foot dragging and the paper chasing, and it does drive people nuts.
so how long does it normally, like if I were to fax over or email you my direct direction of investment today, today's
Mhm.
Tuesday, when would I have that money wired wherever it needed?
We say within 48 hours. If the paperwork is all, the asset purchase people will review it. Of course, if there's anything missing. And
Right.
one of the most common things missing is where do we send the money? So if you
Oh, you
include
mean like the wiring
yeah,
instruction?
like the ACH stuff, and then they gotta chase somebody down and, well, he's gone to Panama for a week. Um, but yeah, if the paperwork is in order within 48 hours, the recipient will have the funds.
So it would be wired out on like Thursday or Friday at the latest.
Yeah, if let's say you send it in tonight, and in the morning they take a look
Yeah.
at it, it could go out tomorrow afternoon. It would definitely go out the following day,
Okay.
so
Do you guys
um,
batch wire or do you batch wire individual?
I think we wire individual. I can find out. I know that we prepare the wires at a certain time of the day, and I don't know whether that is batching or not.
That is.
I could find out.
Yeah,
I
that
could be
usually
a
that is,
proceed.
because otherwise it'd be instant. So just so everybody knows, so like a batch wire is the company will send out one wire a day, and it's usually towards the end of business day. And then as opposed to, just a direct wire.
All right.
So if anyone's dealing with this, I'm the capital raiser, so I deal with this stuff all the time. So
So how does that work? They send out one wire. They send out one wire with 30 people's different things on it, and who has to figure
different
it out?
directives. So it's a program, they put, it'll put like say 50,000 towards this account and then, 75,000 towards another account. It's set up in a system where it'll distribute it out.
I know we do the same thing on the way in with some of our people in your position who are sending money, so sending interest checks or whatever. They'll send a spreadsheet and a gross amount. We'll just distribute it into the accounts. So
Yeah, a lot of people ACH it now to you, right?
we prefer that. It's cheaper all around and it's faster.
Yep.
So yeah,
You
we
just
do.
have to have the account number and the name of the investment, correct?
The only
So-
reason why, just so everybody knows that if you use a wire transfer, that number will never be used again. So that's why when they initially fund the account, it has to be a wire transfer.
Wow.
The ACH numbers, they're recycled every 4 months. So that same
Interesting.
number could be 4 or 5 different transactions, and it's really hard to prove in court.
Interesting.
So let's say, Peggy, you invest with me, all right, and you wire over 50,000. We sell the asset 5 years down the road, and you're like, no, I invested 100,000 with you, and then we just call up that wire number. That wire number is going to be exclusive. So, and you could see the account that it came from, the amount, etc. If it's an ACH number, it's going to, like I said, it's every quarter it's recycled. So.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, I have documentation that shows me what I invested. It's called a report, I believe, every quarter that shows where your money went and what came back.
You'd
It's
be
always
surprised
good
all the
to-
stuff I've heard. It's like crazy. Then you go back to show people and they're like, oh,
Yeah, well, I like download my stuff every quarter to make sure I have it.
I'm just saying, for
And
instance.
most accounts are nice enough to give you the whole recap from the year, which is very helpful.
But even with that, people just don't read.
They don't remember. Yeah. Well,
That's the flip side of it, Chris. Well, that
Crazy.
yeah.
yeah, they think passive means set and forget, and
No, that's not what passive means.
they think it does. They go, oh, this is great, So they say people spend more time planning their vacations than their retirements, and after being around this stuff, I believe that's true.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed you didn't talk about, and I gather you don't carry any securities. There are some IRA companies that still allow securities in the IRA.
There are, and we
And you're
can
not
do
one of
we
them,
can
right?
do it. If somebody's got a widows and orphans stock, some people, I'm going to hold Tesla forever. I'm going to hold SpaceX for 20 years, whatever. Yeah, you can do it. You have to get a registrar, which is generally computer shares, and you have to, get those registered with that registrar, and then moved over here. And when it comes time to trade it, it's not like placing a market order in your brokerage account. It's going the reverse of that process, and there's some human intervention involved. And so, we try to discourage it. It's called direct registration, and yeah, we try to discourage it. There are some vendors out there that will do that. That will allow that.
Yes, there are a
Yeah,
couple,
and,
not
yeah,
too many.
a couple, and
Yeah, because
I
it's pain,
yeah.
just like you said.
Yeah, yeah. Well, given that everybody's had experience with this with self-direction, I mean, was there anything presented tonight that was new or revelatory, or was it pretty
That's what you had at
was
the
it too
end.
basic? Was it too basic?
No, well, remember the people that are on here come here every week, so they're well educated and they're
Yeah,
involved in doing all of these things. Of course, they're taking advantage for themselves to build their wealth, but the education's for everybody who's going to listen in the future also. And what is surprising to me is how many people don't even know there's such a product out there. So the
true.
more we talk about it and the more we push it out there. But the last few things you had, because you're sharing your screen, you
Yeah.
had a couple things right at the end where
All
you were
right.
talking about sharing. Most people don't talk about sharing, and sharing is really important because we talk about it all the time because people say, well, I only have 10,000. I'm like, well, it's a 50,000 minimum. Can you find a couple other people where you'll all go in together and you could put an LLC or something together? And
Mhm.
when you're talking, so you have all these different people on this particular screen, do you suggest that they put a separate LLC together? Because somebody like Chris, who's going to take their money for the multifamily, he doesn't want to see $10,000 ACHs or wires come in. He wants to see one from the LLC group. So how do you suggest that they put this together to co-invest?
I've seen it both ways. I mean, LLCs, are fairly easy to put together. There is a cost associated with it. So generally for short-term lending and those kind of things, I don't see it so much, but to speak, to address, Chris's side of the equation is that, yeah, I'd rather deal with it, particularly if the sums involved are large. Would rather deal with, and it's a longer term deal. It makes sense to put it in a LLC and deal with just one entity. I work with some people over at Left Field Investors who are now Passive Pockets, the deep due diligence people, and they'll come in and invest as a tribe, or they'll form an LLC and come in as a group.
Right.
Yeah, under one umbrella. So I've seen it both. It really depends upon what your systems are capable of doing. Some of the larger fix and flip guys I've loaned money to have no problem with fractional. There'd be 6 or 7 people on that mortgage on the promissory note. Others don't want to deal with it, and that's fine. So
Okay. Yeah, because you don't have to actually do a LLC. You could just do a partnership.
you could, yeah.
Because you're already in something that's basically protecting you. But yeah,
It's
so like that. So are there any other questions? Because we're right at the top of the hour.
we are.
And this was a really nice presentation, Joe.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have one.
Great job, Joe. Great job.
Oh,
Thank you. Good.
great.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that.
Marcy.
Earlier, you talked about assets and private placements and so forth. And your comment was something about you can't of the assets, you can't use just any sort of art. It has to be a specific kind of art or certified or whatever, you can't use any rug or any antique or metal or whatever. But it has to be of a certain amount or certified, or what is the parameter?
You can't hold directly in the IRA. The IRA can't go buy a numismatic coin or an Oriental rug or a piece of fine art. You can't hold that inside. Now, we had the
Personal.
same thing with crypto, is that we were unable to hold crypto inside of an IRA account here, but
But if
people
you have, if you have it in an LLC or
exactly, yeah,
nation,
if you put it in the wallet in the LLC, and the LLC buys and sells and trades and remits cash back to the IRA, then that's good. And the same thing with Masterworks, those sorts of fractional ownership deals where it's not a direct hold by the IRA on a specific piece of art. It's a portfolio that you're generally investing in. And as a fractional owner of the LLC, you're not holding that asset directly.
in California, you'd be paying $800 just going in, because that's the cost of setting up and renewing the LLC each year.
Yeah.
So it better be worth your time and effort.
Yeah, what's the return, and yeah, what kind of return are you expecting? Is it worth the effort? But again, you just do your math and what you're looking to do.
Right. How you're building. Well,
Yeah.
Joe, we thank you very, very, very much for
You're
a really
welcome.
lovely presentation. We really enjoyed it, and we'd love to have you come back again and talk
Anytime.
or maybe about different ways to borrow and different ways to invest. And then, yeah, the reason I brought up rolling your assets, telling people that they can actually roll their asset, they don't have to go to cash, because that's always a big problem when you're in real estate. You can't go to cash.
Sure, we'd love to
asset.
come back. Yeah, and if there's a specific topic, we can prepare something for the group,
Okay.
whether but not necessarily taking up a slot in your on your regular program, but we can put together something on a topic for you. And
Okay.
So
That'd be
don't
great.
hesitate. And anybody that's listening, Marcy, Chris, don't hesitate to get in touch. Just if you want a jawbone and and spitball and use whatever metaphor you want to talk about it. We love pulling these things apart. Love having fun with them.
Right. So can you stop sharing from?
Yeah, sure.
I didn't realize it was still sharing.
There we are.
Great. All right. That's great.
All right.
So thank you everyone for coming. We really appreciate it. And we will see you same time, same station. Next week we have, who do we have? Oh, wrong month. No, Lindsay's coming up at the end of the month. We have a gal coming on in a couple of weeks that's going to talk about how important this will be, particular for your people that are already investors and are doing flips, about setting up the home to sell, right?
And
After they fix it up.
if you send information on that, I'll get it on our calendar so our people know about it.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, we
I'll
love to
ask-
spread the word. Yeah, we love to spread
Okay.
the word.
I'll
Okay.
ask Dawn to include you.
All right. Thanks.
Thank
All right,
you very
everybody.
much. All right. See you all.
Everybody, take care. Thanks for your time. All right. Bye-bye.
Anything, you know how to holler.
Likewise. Be good now.
Bye-bye.